The Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS season, comes down to the final 3 races. The Indianapolis 8-hour in 2 weeks, and a pair of 90-minute sprints this weekend here at Sebring. This track is as grueling as it is historic. The punishing bumps and tricky layout of this 17-turn airfield course are renowned for pushing car and driver alike to their breaking point. And with championships on the line, the challenge of Sebring looms ever larger. Hello, welcome to Central Florida. My name is Ryan Marine. It's a pleasure to have your company. Calvin Fish, as ever, alongside here in the broadcast booth. And down patrolling the pit lane for us today will be our Amanda Busick. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and hear from Amanda with what to watch this weekend here at Sebring International Raceway with Amanda Busick.
Can you believe it's already time for round number 6 in the Fanatec GT Championship? And if you have any questions of where we are, welcome to Sebring, Florida. It is a track that is known as Keep Sebring Weird and Respect the Bump. So what this place may lack in elevation certainly makes up in character and texture. We have championship battles all over this series. Let's get right to it. We are standing on the home track of 2 of our teams in this championship, RS1 and Racer's Edge. Well, Racer's Edge is 19 points back on the weekend. So if there was ever a place to make a move, you might as well do it in front of a hometown crowd. Well, we've already discussed the points leader in the pro classes, but there's a battle for third that is raging now that Conquest Racing has swept the weekend in Road America. 3 teams are separated by just 2 points. In the Pro-Am category, George Kurtz and Colin Brown are leading that with 5 wins on the season. They are ahead of Wright Motorsports, but what I love here is ST Racing. They had 3 runner-up finishes in a row and punctuated with a win in Road America, taking that top step for the very first time. Our family of Series and SRO America are here with us this weekend in Sebring for the penultimate race of the season, and then we head to the Indy 8-hour. We'll see you there.
It is a one-of-a-kind place, that's for sure. Sebring International Raceway. Calvin Fish, a former class winner at the 12 Hours of Sebring. I know you love coming back to this place. You've got great memories of this racetrack. What is it about Sebring that gets every driver's attention?
Well, the bumps get your attention immediately as soon as you drive out of pit lane, but I just love the layout here, 3 3/4 miles, and let's take a look at this layout here. 17 turns is very demanding. We can see the track record there. That certainly was well under that number in terms of the qualifying performance this morning. I have to see what the drivers can do in the heat of the day. But 17 turns, as you can see, and some of the most challenging corners. Turn 1, turn 17, I feel are some of the hardest corners to get through, not only here at Sebring, but in the world of motorsports. A lot to tackle getting through those corners correctly.
We can take a look at the map, but maybe a better view of the track is from On Board with Ryan Dial. This is our Fanatec track preview.
On board here with Ryan Dial, Friazzi Competizione, Ferrari 296, turn 1 about 150 mile an hour. Entry speed, bleeding the speed off to about 105 at apex there. Very tricky corner, then you kind of weave back to the right hand side. Hard braking, turn 3, this is Christensen corner. Listen to the throttle application, they have to be so patient. This is turn 5. Trying to get on the power early without loosening up those rear tires. Long run, good overtaking opportunity up ahead. You can see the cars move around in the middle of the road, miss a big bump there. Lots of oscillation here into the brake zone, turn 7. The hairpin, winding up through the gears once again. This is Fangio corner coming up ahead, turn 8, 9, flat out in these GT3 machines. Turn 10, heavy brake zone, down a couple of gears. Beautiful rhythm through here, heading over towards Tower Corner, turn 13. Tricky brake zone coming up. Down 1 gear, float the speed in, pick up the throttle early, watch the exit curb. Winding back up through the gears. Big speed here, about 140 miles an hour, flat out through Bishop. Lovely little sequence here to set yourself up for the Elman Straight. Use that curb on the left-hand side, turn 16. Power down, use every inch of the road. Top gear, maximum speed here, just over 160 miles an hour. Carrying big speed in here. Want to get the car settled right to about now. Get a lot of the turning then over the bumps. Turn 17, exit is critical as well. Play chicken with that wall. That completes a lap here at Sebring with that Ferrari 296.
And that's the lap that will have Ryan Dial starting on pole for race 2 tomorrow after a technical infraction was found on the ST Racing BMW that had set the pole time in Q2 earlier today. But now we turn our focus to race number 1, the grid for which was set in qualifying 1. And let's hear more about the stories down on the grid with Amanda.
Well, Bill Oberlin was telling me ahead of this weekend that this is his favorite track. And I was talking to your co-driver, Chandler Hull, and he said originally that he kind of feared the bumps here at Sebring, but getting more comfortable with them. As a veteran yourself, what's the key to respecting the bumps here at Sebring?
Just take your time. Know what the car is going to do because it's going to react big time off the bumps. And, you know, they jump, they come off, that traction control kicks in. Is it going to catch me? Is it not? Takes a few laps to learn that. Once you get the hang of it, you just plant your foot in there. That BMW traction control will do the rest of the work, and it makes it so much fun.
Looks like the BMW is taking great to Sebring. You guys have that straight line speed that everyone is chasing. Why is this your race to win?
Well, here it's our race to win. Chandler's on the front row. This was an amazing qualifying for him because the left front suspension was falling apart during his run, and we weren't allowed to fix it for mine. So he got it somehow up to the front. I couldn't, but now it's all fixed. This car is ready to go. Ours to win because look where he's at. We got some speed. If he can hang on to Madison going down out of 16, I told him just draft up on that Porsche and try to slingshot on by. Who knows if he can. It's a smaller track than Elkhart, so we don't have the big runs, but we still got a great car.
Thank you, Bill. Good luck.
Starting on the outside of the front row for race number 1 today with Chandler Hull. That's a look at the number 94 BMW M4 GT3. Great starting position, great confidence as ever from Bill Oberlin, 3-time class winner in the 12-hour.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a ton of success here. He feels this BMW is well suited. They're coming off a very strong weekend at Road America. Unfortunately, had that technical issue in round 2 there, which really hurt them in the points chase. Otherwise, they could have been right in the mix. But they're still third, but as Amanda alluded to, very tight between 3rd and 5th in the points there right now in the Pro class.
Remarkable qualifying lap for Madison Snow to grab the pole for race number 1. That was an impressive effort this morning, and it's about time to turn the field loose down trackside.
And Jose Mendoza from Rovo Motor Oil has the words of the day.
Drivers, start your engines.
And with those famous words, 14 GT3 engines roar to life, and we're about to go for the first of 2 90-minute races here this weekend at Sebring International Raceway. The final 2 90-minute sprints of the season with the Indy 8-hour looming in just 2 weeks.
Yeah, great point. Double points on hand at Indy for the 8-hour race, but this is really moving day in the championship. If you're a contender, you got to make a move right now. If you're leading a championship, you want to try and consolidate. So this is where it gets really tasty in terms of all of the dynamics. Who are you racing against? Is it a championship contender? Is it someone who's got no risk, no skin in the game? You have to factor all those things in as you're making moves here today.
A few teams that have overcome some obstacles here this weekend. Let's go with RS1, starting in the 3rd spot. Eric Filgaris, Stephen McAleer. Transmission issue cost them significant track time yesterday, but pretty good recovery for Eric Filgaris to qualify 3rd. You'll see him in just a moment. But on the Rovo pole position, it is Madison Snow for Wright Motorsports. He'll have Chandler Hull starting to his flank here for the first of 2 races. There's Eric Filgaris. Great qualifying effort as ever for the young Floridian. He'll have Ashton Harrison for hometown team Racer's Edge starting next to him. Then it's Seth Lucas, MDK Motorsports, part of the pro field here this weekend. That's 6 cars deep. George Kurtz on the pole, though, for the Pro-Am side of things. He and Colin Brown have been quick all weekend. Manny Franco, who impressed on debut here 1 year ago, starts 7th. Anthony Bartone, a debutant in his own right this season. He starts in the 8th position. Then it's Adam Adelson in 9th. Jeff Burton, quiet weekend so far for he and DXDT Racing. He will start in the 10th spot. Then to the 6th row where you find Derek DeBoer, TRG. A lot of experience here at Sebring with that team. Derek starts 11th. Scott Smithson starts in 12th. Then it's Justin Wetherill in 13th. And Samantha Tan, who had a really good qualifying effort wiped away by that technical infraction, will start at the back of the pack, but keep an eye on that BMW because it has been fast all weekend long. That's how the 14 cars will line up for this 90-minute race. 2 drivers, 1 pit stop right smack dab in the middle, Calvin. And it's an interesting field because it's very closely bunched together on pace, with some fast cars moved to the back due to some misfortune.
Yeah, that ST Racing number 38, I mean, they put together a great qualifying show this morning in the second qualifying session of the day. Neil Verhagen put that car to the top by electing to throw a new set of tires on it. There's a risk when you do that. All of your tires previously set in the session are erased immediately, but they timed it to perfection. He had a monster margin by a light fuel load on board the car at that point and fresh tires. So they're in recovery mood. There was a manifold booster pressure issue with that car after the qualifying run, so they got moved to the back for both of the starts here, because obviously that the technical body certainly feel that was in place for both Samantha's run and Neil's run this morning. So they're on the back foot a little bit, but we talk about that BMW and the straight line speed. She's going to need it here to put it to good effect to try and cut through this field.
This is a duo that has a streak of 4 consecutive podium finishes in their back pocket, but they've got some work cut out for them if they're going to keep that streak intact here this weekend. No finish worse than second in the last 4 races, including a race win in race 2 at Road America the last time out. Other cars to keep an eye on here, Calvin. The Ferraris might not be factoring towards the front, at least in the starting grid here, but we know both of them have been reasonably quick throughout the weekend.
Yeah, they have. Ryan Dial is pretty bullish about the opportunities here this weekend for the Triazzi team. Justin Weatherall, great to see him back and at a track that he knows relatively well. He's got a bit of work to do, starts this race from P13, but I think when you get Ryan on board, we're going to see that Ferrari move forward potentially, and they've got a great starting spot from the pole now, been promoted to the pole for race 2 tomorrow. So Ferrari's got pace. Conquest Racing team coming off that brilliant run at Road America. They're a little bit deeper, I'd say. That's maybe one of the surprises of the qualifying sessions here this morning, that they're not on the same pace as the Triazzi car here but race is different. I mean, certainly race trim is certainly a different kettle of fish in terms of what you're looking for, but I think Eric Filgueras did a really nice job. We talked about the fact they lost that free practice 2 session with the gearbox change, so for him to qualify 3rd, but he's been a master of that. He's put in some really strong qualifying runs this season so far.
And a little bit of extra pressure on his shoulders this weekend. His co-driver, Stephen McAleer, a bit under the weather.
He's not feeling well. He didn't qualify great, so if they're going to get a big point score, it's probably going to come from this race versus tomorrow, where they're a lot deeper in the field towards the tail end, in fact.
As we talk about the story with RS1, Eric Filgueras and Stephen McAleer, Amanda has an update for us before we go green flag racing.
It is a car to keep an eye on here as we get the race going. There's not a lot of laps under this car as they came into the weekend with a broken transmission. Ended up qualifying okay for Eric Filgueras, but he was telling me a story after qualifying that he's actually racing with a seat insert now. He talked to his engineer after VIR and said that he couldn't see over the dash, and the engineer almost dropped his jaw. So he tried it out in Road America, loved it, has it here again this weekend. But hey, they are not only the points leader for just a reason of winning. They do know how to compete, and I expect them to be a player here today.
They've been players since the season started. Brand new team to the GT3 ranks. Filgueras and McAleer last year dominant in Pirelli GT4 America. They make the jump to GT3 in 2023, and what do? They win on debut in the season opener at Sonoma from pole position, mind you. And that sent a message to the rest of the field, but it hasn't been quite so easy for this team the last 4 races.
No, it hasn't, but they've got 3 wins on the year. They've only been off the podium 3 times out of the 10 races so far, so it's been super consistency, and it even seems on days like we may see tomorrow with a poor starting position, they somehow pull it through. So that's down to the experience of the team, the group, staying calm. Even when you start off the weekend, not in the best of shape, missing that session, just stay the course. Think about that championship, think about the big picture. Don't get rattled.
19 points their advantage coming into the final 3 races with the big one. A double points race, an 8-hour race. They'll welcome a 3rd member to the driving team, of course, for that race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 2 weeks. That's all still to come here this season. But now we turn the focus to this race. Race 1 of the weekend at Sebring. Lights are off on the Toyota GR Supra safety car. The Rova Pole Award went to Madison Snow, just his 2nd weekend with Wright Motorsports this season in that number 45 Porsche, deputizing for Charlie Luck. He'll lead the field to the VP acceleration zone and ultimately to the green flag. He'll have Chandler Hull starting alongside row 2, Eric Filgaris in the Porsche, Ashton Harrison in the NSX, then it's Seth Lucas and the Pro-Am pole sitter George Kurtz in the 3rd row. Good alignment coming down the front straightaway, looking for the green, and it flies. Good getaway for Madison Snow, the pole sitter. Chandler Hull will slot in 2nd. The fight, though, is on for 3rd and 4th. Filgaris fighting with Harrison into turn number 1, side by side.
Yeah, it was a good stop.
Spin, that's Bartone. I believe that's also Jeff Burton, and a great job by Justin Wetherill to avoid any contact there. That's going to delay these 3, but no damage sustained.
Yeah, we may stay green here. They'll certainly analyze that situation, make sure all of those cars and engines have life in them to get out of that situation. So meanwhile, great start there by Madison. No, excellent leap. Looked like Filgaris was going to go with him from P3 on the grid, but Chandler Hull used that BMW's power there to good effect to clear him by the time they got to the turning point for turn 1.
Oh, really late on the brakes. It looked like that was Seth Lucas charging in, trying to get a little bit closer to Ashton Harrison. Able to woe it up. Tires, even though they do come out of those tire ovens, still not totally up to pressure this early on in this opening lap. Madison Snow leads from pole. Here's a move. George Kurtz fighting with Manny Franco. Franco able to sweep across the bow and preserve the spot.
Yeah, I thought George was going to get that position. He's kind of alongside there on the right side of the road, inside for that upcoming corner, turn 10, but had to give it up.
So that sets up a battle for the Pro-Am lead. Kurtz has it, but Adam Adelson has closed in. And this is a repeat of a duel we saw earlier today in GT America powered by AWS, but the shoe is on the other foot here. It was George on the attack earlier today, Adelson on the defense. The roles have flipped here in Fanatec GT.
Yeah, just a couple of hours ago, in fact. So different race car for Adelson. He runs the older generation Porsche in Fanatec GT versus the new 992 in GT America, but nonetheless, same drivers, same dynamic, going for it.
Pretty good start for Samantha Tan. Benefited, of course, by those 3 cars spinning in turn 1. We understand everyone's been able to drive away. So that's 3 positions for Samantha. Now putting pressure on Derek DeBoer, who slips just that little bit wide there at the apex of turn 17. Sunset bend. Now Samantha puts the power down, trying to reel in the TRG Aston.
Gears here, looks like it's pretty even. Get towards the end of that straightaway. BMW comes on a little bit stronger, but not close enough to think about a move to the inside. Really want to get that left side down on that line around the turn 1 apex area of the corner. Everyone's settling in. Tires are starting to come into their sweet spot. Pressures and temperatures will be up by now in this heat. It's about 87 degrees ambient temp here this afternoon in Sebring. Relatively mild compared to last year, Ron. We talk about it. That was really tricky conditions last year for everyone to deal with.
Samantha Tan coming off maybe her most impressive performance in this championship the last time out. More on that later as we take a look at the start of the race. Now, keep an eye in the back third of the field. That's where chaos is about to erupt.
See if there was a bump or something happened there. Yeah, Bartone just got squeezed there. Or actually, Bartone squeezed, but wasn't quite clear of him as he came across.
This is going to be Harry on board with Wetherill, who has to come to a screeching halt to avoid hitting Jeff Burton broadside.
Yeah, I don't think he locked up a wheel either or a tire, so looks like everyone's escaped that. But yeah, it just looked like Anthony just sort of squeezed over on Jeff Burton. They were 3 wide there. Jeff had nowhere to go and obviously just pivoted Bartone around and went for the ride as well.
Here's Madison Snow settling into a nice rhythm. Wright Motorsports, the team, a team that he ran with very early in his career, running single-make Porsches. You can see in the early going, the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race belongs to Madison Snow. 2:04.8. That was about a half a second quicker than Chandler Hull the last time by, but Chandler's found the pace now, and he's certainly hanging tough, if not reeling in the overall leader.
Yeah, it was 8/10 across the stripe last time. It's about that, minus a few hundredths of a second. So Chandler is definitely hanging on. Seems like they got equal pace here in the opening laps. Obviously a long green flag run to go here with the AMP starting this race, you may see as they get to that 40-minute mark in the race, we'll see some pit stops relatively early, but Madison Snow's pace may allow the Wright Motorsports team to elect to keep him out there a little bit longer, work the overcut, but tire degradation isn't massive here, but certainly can be a factor if you get the Pro on board and get those fresh Pirelli P0s on, see what they can go to work with, maybe leapfrog the competition.
This is a drive-through penalty for Samantha Tan. Start procedure. I did think maybe she jumped out of line a little bit early coming to the green. That's really costly for her and this team. I'd love to see a look at that start again. But I do think, and on the replay, that we did see her go 3 wide. And you have to stay in those columns initially. But did want to mention as well, Chandler Hull resetting the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race the second time by, only by a fraction, but starting to reel in Madison Snow.
Yeah, what a day for ST Racing. So much celebration this morning, then it all went pear-shaped with that technical infraction and then an early drive-through for Samantha Tan. So they're going to need a yellow, get back in the game here, get compression in this field.
Ashton Harrison, reigning Pro-Am champion alongside Mario Farnbacher. Same team, same driver lineup. The quirk here this year is the Pro Class in Fanatec GT here in America requires a silver-graded driver to be part of the lineup. Ashton Harrison fulfills that requirement.
And I think that was the difference with Ashton being promoted from bronze up to silver for this year. That meant that they had to move classes. They did win one of those Pro-Am battles here last year, and as you said, one of the Florida Connection teams, Races Edge based here in Florida, of course, and they know the track well, have had success here at the Sebring 12 Hour as well.
I think we're going to get some more information about what the problem was for Samantha Tan on the initial start here, Cal, from on board.
We're not allowed to poke the nose here, and that's what she does. So you pass the stripe, you basically need to keep somewhat in line, and she judged it perfectly, but there are rules in place and protocols that you have to adhere to, and then there's the spin right in front of her, took advantage of that around the outside of those 2 Mercedes that are sideways in the road. So looked like a great first lap. Unfortunately, just the rule says you can't quite jump that quickly.
On a restart, that's fair game.
It is. Green
on the
is
initial
go.
start, it's a different story. They want you to remain in your column until you reach the start-finish line. So after serving that drive-through penalty, Samantha has dropped to 12th overall behind Bartone, but ahead of Wetherill and Burton, who were delayed in that turn 1 spin.
Well, and battle continues. George Kurtz has the lead in Pro-Am, 7th overall. Adam Adelson right in his shadow there.
Such a scary moment. Race 2 of the weekend at Elkhart Lake. The last time out for George Kurtz, who was leading overall at the time. Had a car spin and rejoined the track directly in front of him around a blind corner. He had no idea the car would be there. Basically ran into the back of that other car at unabated speed, and we were thrilled to see George walk away from that. But a frightening moment that he's bounced back from in a big way.
He certainly has, and for the team, they got to bounce back as well, because they would have had a commanding lead in the championship. They basically lost 23 points from where George was running at that point until the points he was awarded. That would have meant they came into this weekend with a 40-point lead. That is now 17 because of the DNF there. But up front, Madison Snow, seems like he's inching away a little bit on this lap. It was down to 6.5 tenths previous lap. It looks like it's blown out a little bit this go around.
But what's interesting is Snow took the pole by close to 0.6 of a second in qualifying. No one was in the same zip code. Chandler Hull, though, able to keep him honest, at least at the start of this race. Did give up quite a bit of ground on that last lap, though. There might have been a little slip at one point during that lap because Hull was considerably off the pace he had shown over the first few laps.
Yeah, Madison just got the hammer down there. That last lap was a 2 of 1.982, so that was 6 tenths clear of Chandler Hull, and the rest of the field almost a second down on that marker. So this is where he really got to do his work. He wants to try and give his teammate Jan Halen the biggest possible gap to work with once we get to that round of pit stops here today. Obviously, a yellow changes all of that in a heartbeat, but nonetheless, Madison will now try and go to work.
This battle here, not just for the lead in the Pro-Am class, but these are the top 2 in the championship. And it's as they run on the track, Kurtz and Brown ahead of Skier and Adelson. 17 points is the difference coming in. It's 25 points to win, and there's still 100 points on offer. 2 races here at Sebring, double points. meaning 50 points on offer at the Indy 8 Hour in 2 weeks.
But most importantly, the 120 car just needs to get in front of the 04. They can't afford to let that championship lead balloon any further. They caught a big break with the incident for George Kurtz, as we already documented at Road America. Otherwise, they'd be very much on the back foot. So it's given them some life in this championship, but they can't afford to even lose a few points by finishing behind.
Pardon, Cal. In many ways, that Road America weekend, though, was a missed opportunity for them because there was the misfortune for Kurtz. Really, they weren't able to capitalize on it in the way that they would have liked. Adelson had a crash in race 1. They scored no points, and they only managed 7th in race number 2. So, yes, it kept them alive, but it could have been a whole lot more.
Absolutely. Both teams walked away from that weekend thinking, what if?
Right.
But that's racing. That's the championship season. You can always look back, but you got to look forward and look to this race finish, look to tomorrow's race, and then the big finale in 2 weeks' time at Indianapolis.
All 6 Pro Class cars run 1st through 6th ahead of all of the Pro-Am cars. I'm not sure we've seen that once this year.
Great point. Great point. Very unusual. Normally they're intermixed.
And part of that is due to what we mentioned before, the requirement of a silver-graded driver in those Pro Class lineups. And we've made the comment a few times over the course of the year. I think this year, of all years, you could really almost throw all of these Pro and Pro-Am teams into one big class because they've been mixing it up so much over the course of the season.
Yeah, there's not much to choose between them when you look at pace. Between those really great bronze drivers that we have in the field, like George Kurtz against some of the silvers out there. That's Ross Gunn. Great to see him back on board that 007 machine for TRG. Valentin Hasse-Klo had been kind of running the majority of the races this year, but he's got a clash over in Europe this weekend.
Correct.
Ryan.
Racing at Spa in Le Mans Cup as well as European Le Mans this weekend. So Ross Gunn, who started the season, ran the first 2 races at Sonoma, back alongside Derek De Boer, of course, Aston Martin factory driver of great acclaim, former British GT4 champion back in 2015, driving alongside Jamie Chadwick.
Didn't know that. But yeah, he's really had a great few seasons over here in North America, really established himself. Ross Gunn has his leading light, Aston Martin factory driver, of course. Runs with the Heart of Racing team in other championships here in North America and has had great success.
That team has had their moments of brilliance this year where they have really flashed some speed. And Derek De Boer, at his first year of GT3 racing, seems to be taking to it quite nicely. Really excited to see what the future holds for him and for TRG as a whole.
Yeah, and they sit Derek, because he's had 2 teammates, sits 3rd in the points, 39 points back. So that's now the question, 100 points still to be scored here this year. So they'll keep digging.
Battle break it out here. Seth Lucas runs 5th, Manny Franco 6th. And for more on Manny, we head back to the pits and Amanda.
Well, they haven't been mute on the fact that they feel that the Ferrari 296, or at least their Ferrari 296, has been struggling on speed here this weekend. But I was talking about Manny to him about his growth that he's seen over 1 year over the other. And he said when he came here last year, he felt that he thought he knew what GT3 racing was, but he now knows that he didn't know what GT3 racing was. He said that I now respect the car more and that I'm more in what the car is capable of. But one of the lines that I love, he said, if the car speaks to you, listen to it. And I think that was a lot of wisdom from the young driver.
Yeah, it really is. You got to be in tune with the machine, and there's days when they've really got the balance right. Today, they're struggling a little bit, but they're a great group, Conquest Racing, led by Eric Bachelard. He's got Alessandro Balzano, who has a ton of experience, was involved with the development of this new 296 Ferrari this year that's been debuted. And big for that team to get the first North American race win at Road America a few weeks ago. But they're on the back foot a little bit. And, you know, I think that surprised me. Coming off that dominant weekend there, I thought they were going to come out blazing here, and there's certainly speed in the Ferrari has been displayed by Ryan Dial this weekend. Then we look at Bill Aublin watching the progress for Chandler Hull, still holding down P2.
Back to Franco, to your point, big weekend in Elkhart Lake to score not just his first GT3 race wins, but they were both overall wins. And you go back to this track last year where he made his GT3 debut in an entry that was initially listed as a Pro-Am entry. And if memory serves, he qualified on the overall front row and promptly got promoted to Pro.
There you go. Cat was out of the bag pretty quickly.
Not much racing experience in terms of years, but he's been a quick study. Really, really rapid and someone to keep an eye on.
Chandler Hull has just responded, just nailed down a lap, but 2:01.8 2 laps ago was only 2/10 off the fastest lap of the day so far by our leader, Madison Snow. So there is pace in that BMW. I think it's all about what sort of margins they can create for their teammates, Jan Halen, Bill Aublin, respectively, and see how the pack can maybe come back at them. But they're in pretty good shape here.
So look at the Racer's Edge brain trust there. Here's the team, here's the car. Ashton Harrison driving. Turned in her best lap of the race the last time by, but lost ground to Phil Garris, who turned in his best lap as well, matching Chandler Hull the last time by, and giving himself some breathing space. Harrison running fourth on the road, no pressure behind. Her target is Phil Garris. She can see right out the window.
Yeah, I think this Acura is well suited to this racetrack. I think the team's pretty bullish about their opportunities to pick up some big points here this weekend. Try and cut into that championship lead that the 28 car has, but Ashton's keeping Eric in sight, and then it's going to be all about her teammate Mario Farnbacher, as he'll have to go battle Stephen McAleer. Certainly based on qualifying this morning, it seemed like Farnbacher may have a bit better pace than McAleer when they go head-to-head. We'll have to wait and see what tweaks they've made to the chassis since then.
That's right, and with that in mind, Ashton's job probably is just to keep them close, keep them in striking distance, and let Super Mario do what Super Mario does.
And that's wring the neck of this Acura and get every ounce of speed out of it.
And to your point earlier, this is a car that is suited to this track. They were on their class pole at the 12-hour race earlier this year. Little bobble there. Is that Bartone?
It is.
He had a big save in qualifying, you might remember, in a pretty similar spot just a couple corners earlier.
Yeah, he did kind of rode that curve there through turn 15 and almost lost it, but fast hands. He's got great car control, this young man. Very talented. It's been a baptism of fire. He burst on the scene, had a lot of promise. That had a couple of races that really didn't go his way, a couple of little mistakes that we saw some chinks in the armor, but nonetheless, I love his attitude, love his personality, but we do understand he may be off to Europe next year to campaign over there for 2024.
He ran an International GT Open just last weekend, actually. Made his European debut, had a couple of top 6 finishes, if memory serves. I think a 5th and a 6th. Does sound like his intentions might be across the pond, looking ahead to next year. But a driver that started off running in the AM class with longtime coach Andy Pilgrim alongside, made the switch mid-season to Pro-Am. They needed that next challenge for him. Drafted in Mercedes driver Adam Christodoulou, who is set to take part in his first race at Sebring since a Star Mazda race in 2009. His first ever North American race, which he won.
Wow, how cool is that? So he's got happy memories. And getting back to Anthony Bartone here, the final car that we're seeing coming through Bishop right now. He and Andy Pilgrim, who's his driver coach, mentor, life coach in a lot of ways as well, are based down in Miami. So we talk about the heat and humidity here. They're certainly used to it with their training. Anthony's been on a severe diet and training regime over the last couple of years, taking this business of professional race car driving very seriously. And all of that will come into play on a day like today.
And he's recovered nicely from that turn 1 incident, which was reviewed, by the way. No action taken. He's put his head down, and he has caught this pair. Derek DeBoer in the Aston, Scott Smithson in the Mercedes. Looked like maybe he dropped off a little bit on that lap, but Bartone tried to make that a 3-way fight as the fight rollers into turn 1 to start yet another lap. Approaching 20 minutes into this 90-minute affair.
DXDT, great little team, 2-car operation currently, run Jeff Burton, Corey Lewis, and Brian Sellers will jump aboard this 08 machine. He's just coming off a big win. He and Madison Snow drive together in a BMW here in North America, won a big championship, clinched it last weekend, so they've had a lot of momentum over there together. And always interesting when you suddenly see teammates who are tied at the hip for a championship suddenly competing each other in a different championship.
And they've been tied at the hip for a long time. Madison Snow and Brian Sellers, long-time co-drivers.
And friends, they're almost like brothers, in fact.
But right now, their fortunes are on the opposite end here, with Madison Snow holding a commanding lead. Meanwhile, the car that Brian Sellers will be driving is stuck currently 10th overall, running just off the podium in the Pro-Am class. Speaking of Madison, here he is, just plugging away, turning in very consistent lap times. Every time I look up, it's a 2:01.7, 2:01.8, maybe a 10th or two here or there. As I say that, that was a 2:02.4, so he did give some time away on that lap. Chandler Hull able to get 4/10 closer that time by.
Yeah, I think this is a really solid run by Chandler Hull. I mean, he didn't get the initial launch, so he kind of got outfoxed there a little bit. I thought Phil Garrett's going to take advantage of that as we're looking at Eric right now. But Chandler just got his head down, has kept it close, and that's his whole goal, is to just try and keep that 94 car somewhere in sight of the tail end of that 45. And we're going to have Jan Halen and Bill Albert potentially taking over the lead cars, and two of the feistiest competitors you'll ever see on the racetrack anywhere in the world.
On board with third place, Eric Filgaris, trying to run down Chandler Hull for RS1. Quite like the scream of a Porsche Flat 6, instantly recognizable trackside.
Yeah, beautifully driven there by Eric Filgaris. That was a really nice, clean lap that we were on board with. So this is a young man that has finally got his opportunity. He's been pounding the pavement around paddocks for a number of years, and got this opportunity and the support of Community Bear Works, and he certainly grasped it with both hands. He and Mac led dominant last year on their way to the Pirelli GT4 Championship, and straight out of the box, he and the team promoted up to this level of competition, and they have performed. It's going to be a tough one to hang on to with this championship, but nonetheless, they have that points lead, and they're doing everything right here today. Nice podium run so far.
Eric would be quick to point out he owes a great deal to Tom Kopczynski, a racer in his own right, but the real benefactor of this program. Successful commodities trader who has a passion for this, took a liking to Eric and has helped promote him through the ranks, give him this opportunity, and we understand those two very likely could be racing together in the SRO paddock, looking ahead to next year. Right now, Eric Filgaris doing the best that he can to keep that car in front of this car, because that's the fight for the championship right now. One of them, at least. There are a lot of different permutations for these championships, but that is his main focus.
Yeah, 3-second gap right now, approximately between the 28 car and the 93 that run first and second in the championship, third and fourth on the road right now. So every point is precious. It's all about the big picture of the championship when you get down to this stage and phase of the year.
Hour and 5 minutes to go. 25 minutes or so into this opening stint. Let's watch these cars come through turn number 1. Chandler Hall over that bumpy section, tricky high-speed turn 1 into this rhythm section here. Wrapping up sector 1 into sector 2. Chandler Hall continuing to push, trying to run down the race leader, Madison Snow. It's been nip and tuck, though, since the early stages as we take a look at our race vision powered by AWS. A look at the third sector here. That's where Chandler Hall is excelling relative to the Porsche. And we understand the BMW has consistently been quicker in that third sector than the Porsche, but it swings back the other way in sectors 1 and 2.
Yeah, and it's not totally surprising. We talk about the BMW. It's all about balance of performance on a lap time, but where it achieves its time is down the straightaway. So that third sector actually starts when you head through Bishop Bend, which is turn 14, coming up here in a little bit. So this is turn 13. We're just completing sector 2. Right about where the leader is. We're looking at the second place car right now. This is where sector 3 now starts. So from this point forward, this is where he inches up towards that Porsche a little bit, but it's going to include that long back straightaway, and I'd say that's where the M-Power really comes into play.
Great looking race car. This BMW M4 GT3. And with an hour and 3 minutes to go, we can hear from the co-driver of our race leader, Madison Snow. Amanda is standing by with Jan Halen.
And we did talk about the heat here yesterday and the impact it has on drivers. You can see Jan Halen wearing an ice vest as he gets ready for his stint, and said that it is brutal out there for drivers when they take behind the wheel. And Jan, I talked to Madison Snow ahead of qualifying today, and he said that it's just been an effort for him to get comfortable with this ride, and I'm sure you've had heavy input on that. Talk about the discussions between you and Madison as he's out there leading this race right now.
Yeah, I have to say he's done an amazing job. Switching between the two brands, and it for sure is it's a very different car. So he's done really well adapting to the car, and Sebring, as we all know, is not the easiest track. So he's done an incredible job, and we couldn't be here without without Madison and the team doing such a good job.
When you say that Sebring isn't the easiest track, where does it really stress the talents of a driver?
Well, I think it's a track with the most turns relative to straight lines. So there's a lot of bumps, a lot of turns, and it's one of my favorite tracks. But definitely a driver's track.
What can you tell us about the impending driver change coming up?
Well, I think we're trying to decide on strategy right now if we're going to go short or long. We have a little more flexibility with Madison in the car doing, with that he's running. So I think we're going to wait and see what the others are doing and then go from there.
I think he kind of just answered it there with Madison's talent.
What do you think, Cal, strategy-wise?
Well, I think he brings up a great point, and that's the advantage that Brian Sellers and Madison Snow have had in winning that other championship this year, because Madison's got sort of equal pace to his teammate. It allows you to move that driver change point around without any driver performance factoring in. It's all about the overcut and the undercut on the tires, really, versus driver performance, which is a huge advantage to have. It can really have a bit of an ace up the sleeve for a lot of these teams when you have such a strong driver combination.
Madison Snow's had success at this racetrack in the 12-hour race. 2 times the class winner. Jan Halen, too, has won here in the 12-hour. He won last year and was on the podium in both of their races in SRO competition, including a race win.
Yeah, and Jan lives over in the St. Petersburg area. He's an avid cyclist, fitness fanatic, so he's used to training in these conditions, and that all comes into play for sure. As we said, it's a little bit milder. It's still pretty toasty out there, but a little bit milder than the conditions we saw last year, which were absolutely brutal.
I think everyone thrilled that it didn't end up being as hot as some of us feared or as wet as some of us feared. There is a chance for a pop-up shower or two throughout the course of the day tomorrow, as is customary in Florida this time of the year.
John Lahal has kept his hammer down, as has Eric Filgueras, but Madison Snow is just relentless with his pace. He just laid down another 1.6 second lap, just a few thousandths off his best lap of the day. So the pace is there, the consistency is there, there's not a lot of tire degradation, and that will factor in terms of if you choose to go long. It doesn't seem like these Pirelli P0s are falling off in terms of their performance. That gives the teams a little bit of an edge in strategy to work with as well.
Checking back into the Pro-Am battle, and it's George Kurtz who leads that class. He and Colin Brown leading the championship, and the car chasing him on the track is the car chasing him for the title. Behind the top two in class, though, you get to this gaggle, led by Derek DeBoer. Scott Smith's in the meat in the sandwich, and at the very back is where you find Anthony Bartone, who continues to recover from the lap 1 spin that affected himself, as well as Justin Wetherill and Jeff Burton.
Yeah, this is a really nice scrap here for that final podium spot. Derek's done an excellent job. Going to be turning over the reins of this Aston Martin, as we've said, to the Brit Ross Gunn. And then you can have Sellers jumping on board Smithson's car. Adam Christodoulou aboard the real-time racing with the Bartone brothers. Mercedes entry as well, so some real talent. And top pros going to finish off the deal here today.
4 podiums on the season for Derek DeBoer. We've chronicled his revolving door of co-drivers. It's been Ross Gunn and Valentin Hassan-Clos. Back to Ross Gunn here this weekend. Still not sure who will be slotting in alongside Derek at the Indy 8 Hour, but it will be 2 drivers, so maybe it's both. Maybe it's somebody completely unexpected, not sure. Probably isn't both, actually,
no,
given
I think you have to have
the
another
Pro-Am.
AM in there, yeah.
Unless they switched classes, which that's probably unlikely, as he comes in 3rd in Pro-Am points. Like to stay there.
Just amazed at the consistency of some of these battles we're seeing here today. We talked about Snow and Hull up front, and Filgueras doing his job. Ashton hanging tough also. In this battle, not much but choose between them. It looked like Bartone may have a little bit of an edge in speed in terms of ultimate lap time, but doesn't have the track position yet. You see him eating up all of the curbs there through that little sequence of corners, 3 through 5. Got to be super patient there. You're always asking the car and the tire for a little bit more, but sometimes they'll just give up on you. You're already on the limit, but you seem to want a little bit more from a driver's seat.
These GT3 cars do generate a lot of lap time through aerodynamic downforce. That dirty air conversation, always a factor. Can you describe for the viewer that's never experienced it what it's like to be in that aero wash and the effect that it has on the car?
Yeah, it's almost like someone's pulling the rug from underneath your feet. You know what I mean? You're turning through the corner and just suddenly the front end just washes out on you. It's just like someone's just tugging away and trying to take the car away from the direction you're trying to get it pointed to. It's what we call understeer or push in a race car. And that aero effect will give you advantages down the straightaways, punching a hole in the air, so that's easier for you in straightaway speed and you pull up on someone. But when you get to high-speed corners, it's just taking the air away from the front splitter and the front dive planes. And it's subtle, but it can be so aggravating. Just as you're getting a run, you just have to wait. Like right here, you might have to wait just that little bit before you can commit to power.
And the effect on tire wear?
That's a big factor. If you keep driving like that, you're going to, sort of grind through those front tires, and that'll just continue to get worse and worse. So you have to manage it. Sometimes you have a little go, you drop back, try and get out of that aero wash a little bit, and then go back on the attack.
A moment ago, we got a shot of Colin Brown, the Texan, celebrated a birthday yesterday. Ooh, spin for Bartone there in Sunset. Looks like he's able to recover and get up to speed, but Sam Tan is charging. That breaks off this 3-way battle, makes it a 2-car fight. Let's see if we can get a glimpse
by
of
himself there.
Yeah.
Just gets in, just gets in a little bit too wide there. Attack the corner, just gets a little bit wide. Then you find some unknown bumps. I mean, this turn 17 is literally an adventure every time you go through there, it seems.
And now Bartone is going to have to play some defense here for the next 6 minutes or so before the pit window opens, and he could turn that car over to Adam Christodoulou. Samantha Tan recovering from a drive-through penalty. This is the car that was supposed to start on class pole. It was supposed to start on overall pole tomorrow. Technical infraction put them at the back for both races. Now Samantha going on the attack here. Looking to the outside, flows the speed in. Can't get alongside, but trying to get a run out of the hairpin. Looking to find a weakness here, a chance to make the pass.
Oh, she's pushing right there. It's going to be pretty tight there. That onboard was very telling in terms of she did not crack the throttle. When Barton moved over on her, she just kept it pegged and then looked to the outside into the brake zone for turn 7. That means she's probably a little riled up after the day that they've had and is on the attack big time.
Her development over the last handful of seasons has been eye-opening, and Samantha Tan is one of the great success stories of the SRO America ladder, starting in touring cars, up to GT4 and now to GT3 and having success.
She does, and she's a brand ambassador with the BMW brand as well, so there's a lot of great things happening for her and her career.
Also gets to race a Ferrari over at Fanatec GT Europe, so pretty special opportunity for Sam. We'll hear from her teammates here as she looks to make the move for position. Let's hear from Neil Verhagen in just a moment. Oh boy, this is really good. Crosses over.
Beautiful. That was really nice.
There they go, Samantha Tan around Barton, able to take that position away. That is for 11th overall. And let's get a reaction here from the ST Racing pit lane after that big move, Amanda.
And Neil's going to get in the car here pretty soon. As he said, the word that he used was nice on that overtake from Samantha. What is possible in this stint for yourself?
I think anything is still possible. We're hoping for a safety car and to get back into it.
Good luck, Neil.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's going to have to hustle.
He's going to get suited and booted here pretty quickly.
This is not done yet. Barton would love to get back by. Both cars just brushing that brakes, resetting the pads.
Getting back to that move, that was superbly crafted by Samantha Tan. She knew that if she went to the right-hand side, there's that wall on the right-hand side Barton would protect. She flicked it to the outside, made him go in deep, and then just cut it back underneath. Did the crossover through and under the bridge on the front straightaway. Beautiful piece of driving. That's really a real statement in how far she's progressed with her talent and her skill set and her racecraft there.
Well, maneuvers like that, coupled with the raw pace. Remember what we were seeing out of her in race 2 at Road America before the big incident with George Kurtz? She was running him down. She was running the fastest laps of anyone at the end of that race and looked poised perhaps to challenge for an overall win. They ended up with a class win, and that was great. But she was on track for a really impressive result.
They need, like Neil alluded to, they need a yellow.
Yep.
When you lose so much track position and the gaps are so big to the front of the field with that drive-through, they need a yellow, and then they got some speed to maybe go work with it.
Right now, just off the podium within that Pro-Am class, and they've got a podium streak of 4 consecutive races. They would love to keep going. It would be remarkable given the 2 penalties they've suffered in this race, one before the start and then one in race. If they were able to keep that alive, that would speak volumes.
Well, speaking volumes is Madison Snow's impressive pace here and consistency of the pace. You know, as his teammates said, it's tough to switch brands like he's had to, get his teeth and his arms wrapped around this Porsche platform, but he's done it remarkably well. And when you're doing that and you're not used to driving every single weekend, to have the consistency of lap times is, but he's got the confidence. He's had such a big year, so many wins, so many pole positions, that he's really on top of his craft right now.
And that kind of momentum, it can carry over despite different championships, different tires, different rules, different brands.
Even your golf game sometimes, Ryan.
Speaking from experience, there's nothing that can help my golf game, I'll say that. Fight for the lead in Pro-Am continues. Kurtz in the Crown Strike Mercedes, just behind Adam Adelson, continuing to give chase. This is a heavily repaired car. He had a big crash at Road America race number 1. And it's a different tub, but with a lot of the same components built up around it, is what I was told.
Yeah, so looking at the time to go here, about a minute away from pit lane opening, so I would think you saw Colin Brown ready to go. You're going to see a lot of the pros going to be jumping in at the first opportunity here, even though there's not been a lot of tire degradation. You're not going to get a massive undercut in terms of the tire performance, but you will when these fast pros get on board.
It's Corey Lewis. He'll be jumping into the car Jeff Burton started, unfortunately, quite a bit down the road after the spin on the opening lap, right here in turn 1. Do wonder how some of these battles will get turned on their head when the driver change takes place. We see more of that, I think, in race 2, when it's the less experienced driver finishing. The pros across the board in this championship are pretty equul. And sometimes it just comes down to setup and how well the team is on top of their platform at a given racetrack.
Yeah, the pros are so good in this championship. There's a lot of talent, a lot of depth of talent, so there's not big deltas between those drivers when they jump on board. So tomorrow's race, when you got the pros starting and then the AMs jumping on board, there's more of a discrepancy in their ultimate pace, and so we see a lot of chopping and changing late tomorrow. But nonetheless, you got to execute the pit stop. Minimum stop time here is 79 seconds. That's from pit in to pit out, including a 4-tire change, top up on fuel, and the driver change, of course.
And that pit window is open. It's available to anyone if they would like to come in. And expect to see these Pro-Am lineups make that call as early as possible. And right on cue, here is Jeff Burton. He's the first one who has the opportunity to come in, and he will come in. Interesting that the overall leader elects to make that same pit call, Madison Snow. They elect to go with the short opening stint, giving Jan Halen a bit more work to do when he gets out on track, and Chandler Hall and Eric Filgaris both will follow him down the pit lane.
Yeah, the risk is a safety car. We've seen it happen across the championship this year where we get a safety car intervention within a pit stop window, particularly in probably GT4 has happened a few times, so there's a little bit of a wrinkle there potentially. So if you got the track position, maybe this is a safer way to go.
Yeah, the risk is of staying out is that safety car catching you out. Exactly right. I believe that's George Kurtz.
Yeah, I'm
staying out.
He's staying out for another lap or more.
That tells me the team is very pleased with his pace. Going to give him a lap of totally clean racetrack to put down his best lap before coming in to make that change.
Yeah, the comparison's going to be George Kurtz's in-lap or in laps compared to Elliott Skier's out laps, who's going to jump on board the 120 machine that was running right behind George and in that battle in the championship as well.
Yes, so the top two in Pro-Am taking divergent strategies. Pit stops already complete. Corey Lewis in the car that's effectively a lap down. Then we've got the overall leader prior to these stops. Now it's Jan Halen driving. The car started by Madison Snow. Bill Oberlin now driving that BMW. Elliott Skier, as mentioned, now in the RS1 Porsche. They make their way back on track in the same order in which they came in, which says the pit crews did what they were supposed to do. And it leaves just George Kurtz out on track by himself.
Yep, so he's the overall leader and remains the leader in Pro-Am, so he needs to nail this lap. George is good at nailing laps late in his stints. He did that in qualifying here this morning. Really impressive last lap to grab that Pro-Am pole.
Ryan Dial, this is going to be a very fast car, I suspect, in this stint. Unfortunately, Justin Wetherill lost a lot of time in the turn 1, lap 1 incident, so they're behind the 8 ball, but Dial will have the overall pole position for race 2 tomorrow, and the Scotsman is in the car. We're going to see that car come to life.
Yeah, Wetherill had a good session there. I mean, his fastest lap was only 4/10 off Manny Franco in the similar Ferrari in that opening stint for all of the drivers today, so I think you'll be pretty happy with that.
Kurtz, who has cycled through to the overall lead, does he come in on this lap? We wait for the Riley crew to make the call, and indeed, in comes the CrowdStrike Mercedes. Where he comes out relative to Elliott Skier in the right Porsche, the green one, that's going to be the difference here in Pro-Am. That's going to tell us which strategy call was the correct one.
Yeah, because you have the tire ovens, the heated blankets to throw those new Pirelli P0s on the car, so they come alive pretty quickly, particularly in the track surface and heat that we have here at Sebring in the Florida sun. So Should have these second drivers getting up to speed really rapidly. So Jan Halen will now assume the lead of this race once again, with George finally making his pit stop.
Jan comes through, reclaims the overall lead. This is the car to keep an eye on. Elliott Skier, how quickly can he get up to speed? What does this outlap look like while the Riley crew continues their pit work?
Yeah, Skier's first sector time is not relevant as he's coming out of the pit, so we'll have to wait and see how things develop as the timing and scoring cycles here.
Possibly a problem here with the right rear.
There is an issue.
Oh no. Trouble getting the right rear off. That is going to allow this car through. So it's not a matter of strategy. It's just a matter, perhaps, of equipment not operating like it's supposed to. This is no contest. Right Motorsports sweeping through to take the class lead in Pro-Am.
Yeah, like you said, Ryan, nothing to do with strategy. You see the dejection, the body language there with the CrowdStrike Racing team. Some kind of issue. It looked like getting the old wheel and tire off versus the new one going on.
And that Riley team is as good as any in this paddock. Very rare to see a miscue of any kind, even if it is equipment related rather than an error by a crew member.
Huge for the championship.
Massive.
George Kurtz will not be happy after putting in a great driving stint. He'll go over and talk to the group and understand what happened exactly there. But if they finish first and second with a 120 ahead, it's going to cut that 17-point lead down to 10 heading into tomorrow's race. Still a lot of time on the table, though.
And still an 8-hour race at the end of the year to cap it all off, which has been wild in the past. Some of those championships, the way they've been settled in the final quarter of an hour of an 8-hour race, we've seen it happen.
So there you could see the gap visually between Jan Halen and now Bill Aublin behind the world of the Bimmer World number 94, BMW M4. Colin Brown now going to be up on the wheel big time. He thought he was just going to be controlling a gap. Now it's all about chase mode.
How difficult is it to reset? Because you go into this stint, like you say, thinking it's going to go one way, and then something happens in the pit lane, and you have to completely recalibrate, right? How you're going to approach your
stints. Well, I think it's easier for a pro to deal with that than an AM driver. So for Colin Brown, so much experience. He's been in these situations before, and he's just going to get up on the wheel. But let's have a chat with his teammate, George Kurtz, with Amanda.
And Cal, the first question he had for his team was how far behind. The team relayed roughly 9 seconds. And George, I talked to you ahead of this one. We discussed what happened at Road America, and it seems like there's moments of brilliance, and then there are just kind of head-scratching moments. After that stint and now knowing what is ahead for Colin, what's the chances with this adversity?
Well, it's unfortunate because we brought it in a good position, and you know, we just clicked off the laps, and things happen in the pit stops, unfortunately. So we just got to put our heads down and see what we can do. And I think it's really going to be damage mitigation. It's pretty tough to pass that here. So maybe it's a yellow that'll help us out, and you know, you never know what happens. We'll see what it all looks like at the end.
What can you tell us about the car that you passed on to Colin Brown?
It's a pretty good car. It's a struggle for us here. The Merc is good at a lot of tracks. BOP is not necessarily in our favor, and it's pretty slippery out there. So I don't think we have the ultimate pace to win it all, but we'll see, you know, if something comes our way.
Thank you, George. Nice time.
All right, thanks.
Curious to see what these first few laps look like, comparing and contrasting Skier and Brown. We don't have a full lap at speed yet from Colin to give you that, but the gap is about 11.7 seconds now, first to second in Pro-Am. And then we drop back and find this. Neil Verhagen has gotten around Ross Gunn, it would appear, and that would put Neil at ST Racing into third in Pro-Am.
Yeah, that's huge.
What a recovery.
He was the fastest man here this morning, so I think this could be a lightning fast stint here for Neil Verhagen, just trying to see what he can achieve here with the time left on the board. He's hoping for a yellow. He needs a huge break with a full course yellow and a compression of this field to erase all of those gaps to the cars in front of him. I think he'll certainly have the pace.
I think we have a look at how Neil got around Ross Gunn. Let's go on board with the Connecticut native.
Turn 17. got through 17 really efficiently. Ross didn't try to defend that inside lane, probably recognized that BMW has a little bit more top speed. There's a couple of laps to go. You've got to be more aggressive. When you look at the board and see there's 40 minutes still to play with, tough to defend maybe that kind of speed discrepancy that he knows that BMW has.
And Verhagen is flying. He did the previous lap at just over 2 minutes. That one, the first lap of the race, under the 2-minute threshold in race trim. A 1:59.775, new CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race to the third-placed car in the Pro-Am ranks, Neil Verhagen. The recovery drive is on.
And where we at with track records, Ryan? I mean, they're going to be on target if he can continue to run at that sort of pace, right?
Well, yes, it is definitely under the existing SRO track record coming in here. Now I've got to think back on what Dial's time was this morning. It was, what, a 59.5?
Yeah, you got, I think, 59.3, but I mean, you got race lap records and quali lap records. But either way, I think Verhagen's going to try and make a statement. Yes, I had the fastest time this morning. There was a technical infraction. We've corrected that, but I'm going to showcase to you and everyone else in this paddock that I can get the job done.
Let's compare and contrast this battle for the overall lead here, where Bill Auberland is starting to make some inroads.
Big time.
Reeling in Jan Haywen in the right Porsche.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the balance is absolutely to Jan's liking. I heard him crack the throttle there on the exit of turn 1. Thought I could hear that from the high camera and the audio. Auberland wants to make an impression too. He spoke to Amanda, talked about the fact that they had some shims coming loose in the front suspension, so that certainly compromised Chandler Hull's run, but definitely destroyed Bill Auberland's chance of qualifying towards the front of the field for tomorrow's race. So he recognizes today is the day, the opportunity with that track position that he assumes right now to try and score some big points.
Right. Yeah, that issue in qualifying this morning put them on the back foot, certainly for race 2 tomorrow, and Bill didn't have a chance to show just how quick he could be.
And the real key is, we talked about the fact that Madison Snow had the advantage over Chandler Hull in Sector 2. Well, right then, on that last lap, Bill Auberland was 2/10 quicker than Jan Haylen through the twisty bit. So, and then he's going to use that BMW M-Power as well down the Elmond Straight. So he's got the sweet spot. The key is whether that car maintains that balance throughout the course of these last, what is now 38 minutes of the race.
Then we get to this. This is the fight for 3rd and 4th between McAleer for RS1 and now Farnbacher for Racer's Edge. And that matters for the championship here. Farnbacher has been the quicker of the two over the last handful of laps, but it's a big gap. 8.6 seconds that needs to be overcome.
Yeah, but the margin that Mario's displaying in terms of the pace has been up around close to a second over Stephen McAleer, so there's plenty of time for Mario at that delta if he can maintain that impressive pace to catch him.
On board here with the Scotsman McAleer. Under the weather here this weekend, driving through it, gritty performance. Right now in front of his championship rival. But for how much longer? Let's compare their lap times. That last time by McAleer, a 2:01.7. Farnbacher, a 2:09. So 8/10 to the good for Super Mario.
Yeah, it's going to take him like 10 laps to get there, so there's plenty of time for that to happen. And Mario knows that. The team will be telling him at this rate, this is when you can catch him. That's where you want to know. I mean, once he gets close enough, he can see it, but he's certainly got McAleer in his sights, and we'll see if he starts to creep ever closer.
There you see it. Over the last 3 laps, the edge to Farnbacher, not insignificant. As he continues to reel in Stephen McAleer. But as we always say, catching him is one thing, passing him is another. George Kurtz alluded to how difficult it can be to pass around this place. There are a few places you could do it, but it strikes me that there are also fairly easy corners to defend in as well, as long as you take care of business.
One thing I'm also looking at in terms of time on the board and gaps and pace, we've got Elliott Skier leading right now in Pro-Am. Colin Brown, Neil Verhagen aboard the ST Racing Machine we're looking at right there. He's cutting into that gap to Colin Brown, so that is significant too. That last lap, he was 7/10 quicker than Colin Brown. So a similar scenario in Pro-Am from 3rd to 2nd that we're looking at from Bill Auberland to Jan Haylen, Farnbacher to McAleer. There's potential for a lot of switching around here before the checkered flag this afternoon.
all of it matters in these tight championship battles, even if this car itself is not in the mix. If you take points away from a championship contender, that's where all of a sudden a pass that seems relatively innocuous can have major implications.
There'll be some big swings here.
Taking a look at Race Vision powered by AWS best lap. Ignore Steven, but for Hagen Brown, that speaks volumes. Those cars pretty quick.
There's a man at work here. His teammate watches on. There's Samantha, probably watching our coverage on her phone.
She's pretty calm. And why not? She knows what Neil can do.
Maybe she's booking a dinner reservation for us for tonight, Ryan. Where do you fancy?
Got a couple places here in town, but we don't want to give them all away if we're going to get our seats. Just 35 minutes to go. What an impressive young driver Neil Verhagen has proven to be. It's been really cool to get to see him race here in his home country. So much of his career has been spent racing over in Europe.
All of these gaps are coming down, Ryan.
Yep.
Bar this one. As I say that, I'm looking at Jan Helen's last lap. He was actually 3/10 quicker than Bill Auberlen. So Auberlen had been quicker for about 4 or 5 laps in a row, and suddenly Jan Helen has responded.
Yeah.
He doesn't want Auberlen getting any closer.
He has, but if you look at the best laps between the two cars, the edge is certainly to the BMW. So the question becomes, was that a one-lap blip in performance from Auberlen, or is that a sign that maybe he has burned off some of the good in those Pirelli P0s, and now is going to have to manage that a little bit more over the final 34 minutes.
Well, they've been knocking on the door. They had that one big win this year in round 4, but they deserve so many more victories. But that's just the way the racing gods will play their part. Some seasons just don't go your way, and for Chandler Hull and Bill Auberlen, a season might have been, but he's still right there in the mix. And now he responds, only a 1/10 of a second quicker than Jan Helen, but still inching up towards the rear bumper of that Porsche as we speak. Farnbacher continues to close on McAleer. The gap now is under 6 seconds between 3rd and 4th in the pro ranks.
These are the best battles, and watching them develop over the course of this second stint, the ebb and the flow around this tricky 17-turn track.
Farnbacher, the last lap, 9/10 quicker than McAleer. Getting back to that battle in Pro-Am. Neil Verhagen, the last lap, was about 9/10 quicker than Colin Brown. So I think that's 7/10 as he crosses the line. So yeah, continue to eat into that gap. We're going to see some feisty little battles here in about 5-6 laps time.
Yeah, all of this is shaping up to make for a very dramatic final 15 minutes of this race. This is about positioning. This part of the race is about getting yourself to the stretch run to then be in a position to go on the attack. But any little miscue costs you perhaps a lap of being the aggressor, right? I mean, if you're delayed in arriving there, you're going to need as many chances as possible to make the pass. This is a crucial part of the race as everyone positions jockeys to be in the right spot for the run to the checkers.
Farnbacher absolutely nailed Tower Corner there. We just saw him coming off that corner, using every inch of the road, not dropping into the dust. Nice run here by Trenton Estep aboard the MDK Motorsports Porsche, running 5th in class. Balzan behind him. You can see the red and white Ferrari just coming through turn 16. But you're not in a race when you're in a position like Mario Farnbacher trying to chase down Stephen McAleer. You're not in a race with a car right now so much as you're in a race with time. You're looking at your predictive. You're looking at absolutely executing every single corner, putting together all 17 corners, and then saying, how did I do? What is the gap now to that car in front of me? And it's really a fun part of the race because you know there's time left. You know that if you continue to do what you're doing, you're going to have that opportunity to step onto the podium here at the end of the race.
It's Ashton Harrison who started the car for Racer's Edge. Longtime teammate Mario Farnbacher It's now his turn. How much information, if you were in Mario's situation, would you be wanting? Are you wanting to know the gap every lap, a couple times a lap?
I think every lap is good. I mean, he's got his predictive. He knows what he's doing. He's feeling his race car, so he's trying to give information maybe back to the team as well in terms of, yeah, car's still good, still got good balance, or just so you got a conversation going. You're kind of sharing the race together in terms of what the car's doing. Not that the team can do anything for you, but it's all about keep your head down, Mario. Even though if the car's balance is going away, you're still catching him. He can see it, though. He can see that Porsche right in front of him, and he knows he's getting ever closer.
Part of a great racing family, Mario Farnbacher. His brother, Dominic, recently announced he was stepping away from full-time racing, but had a tremendous career of his own. And his father, Horst, and uncle Herman, also very successful drivers and running teams as well. Farnbacher Racing for many years, a leading light in the sports car racing world.
And this is just beautiful stuff. He is just nailing it. Really clean, not overdriving. Going to keep the tires underneath him deep into the stints. And we saw those Pirellis still have great pace at the end of the first stints for all of the starting drivers here today anyway.
Into the final 30 minutes of this race, final third. Mario Farnbacher continues to reel in Stephen McAleer. Let's hear from his co-driver now with Amanda.
Well, we're watching Mario in his pursuit of McAleer, and I know you're probably just talking to the team about it as well, and I asked you when is he going to catch him, and you said, I hope soon. But on your calculations, how far are we away?
Gosh, it looks like based off of time, I think in the next couple laps it's going to definitely get close enough where we can start making some aggressive moves. But we're at the point in the championship where we have to be aggressive, and I know everyone has that same mindset in the pro category. So as we sit here and watch them go to work, we're just waiting just patiently. We have about 14 laps left, and yeah, I think we have plenty of time.
At this point of the season, we also talk risk versus reward, and I was talking to you about that yesterday, and you said that you guys aren't worried at all, that you were kind of right at this position last year heading into Indy, and the words were, it's not over until it's over. How much is fact in that statement?
Oh my gosh, I mean, last year was just a great example. We had 3 wins in a row. We swept Road America. We come here and won, and then we had a break, and we went all the way from first to third and had to just hope on luck, and that happened. And so, we're taking it lap by lap, but at this point we're aggressive. We have to make up for some podiums lost this season, and we're full attack at this point. That's what our goal is.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, she's right. It looked like the championship was going to be theirs after race 1 here at Sebring last year. Then they had that disaster in race 2, had to battle back, and frankly, some things just fell their way at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the 8-hour, where they finished second and ended up taking the Pro-Am title by 5 points.
First time I've seen the car really slip on Mario Farnbacher. They're coming off of turn 16, so he may be getting to the point in the stint where the tire is starting to give up. This is a fun little battle we're looking at here. Adam de Christodoulou, Brian Sellers, Ryan Dial. Dial's car's had a lot of pace here this weekend, so he might have a little edge. Sellers and Dial were teammates at DXDT, not in the same car, but under the same awning for a couple of years there, so we know each other well.
Been talking about how the tire wear is not terribly pronounced here this weekend. Jan Halen just turned the car's fastest lap in the last time by a 2:01.0. That's in the overall lead, extending his buffer to Bill Oberlin to nearly 2.5 seconds. Checking in on this fight, though, this is Adam Christodoulou, Brian Sellers, and the aforementioned Ryan Dial, who we were on board with just a moment ago.
See who has the advantage here between the Ferrari and the Merc down the straightaway. All's getting punched pretty nicely for Ryan Dial there with the 2 Mercs.
In clean air, he has been the quickest of this triumvirate. He's about a second clear of these 2 on the previous lap, so he's just caught them here on this lap. Now he needs to find a way by. This is what we were talking about. Yeah, it's all shaping up that we're going to have some close battles here in the final 15 minutes. We think these battles will close up, but then can anyone break out and actually make the pass?
Well, you need straightaway speed here, so they're you know, they're evenly matched. There's a few tenths between them in terms of Ryan Dalziel's Ferrari looking like it's a little bit quicker, but having enough of an advantage to make a clean move. That desperate lunge down to the inside, we'll have to see what sort of magic he can create right now. And that's where the BMW, you know, we talk about it, I mean, his balance of performance is a nice match with the rest of the field, but it does have that edge in some of the key areas, which is into the big brake zones because of that top speed advantage it seems to have.
Among the biggest brake zones right here into the hairpin, turn 7. Great place to make a pass if you can get up alongside. Easier said than done.
So Sellers hasn't shown his hand yet. Looks like he's just working him over, trying to see if there's a chink in Christodoulou's armor.
Wow,
Looks like Brian's car is just able to carve the racetrack a little bit more efficiently. He's not having to use as much road and such big radiuses going through some of the corners, so that may allow him to be in position to make a move here.
Keep an eye on this dice. Last time by, Farnbacher chopped off another second. It's down to 2.8 now to McAleer. Verhagen is within 4 seconds of Brown. So much still in play in the final 24 minutes.
Yeah, Verhagen is just chopping into that Colin Brown gap big time, half a second or more a lap. Here's a big run by DL. Sellers on the defense immediately. Does DL send it around the outside? Doesn't make it happen. Going to try for the crossover right now. He's trying to set him up, trying to get that Ferrari tucked to the inside. Brian does not open up the door. They'll control his mid-corner speed nicely.
Able to get good enough of a jump out of 17 that it doesn't look like he'll be under threat into turn 1 either. That's letting Christodoulou get some breathing space he's not had in a number of laps.
So a little twitch there by Brian on turn into turn 1. That's not ideal at those sort of speeds, 150 mile an hour approach speed. But you called it, Ryan. As soon as you start to defend, he lost that car length and a half to Adam Christodoulou. Now he's escaped Ryan a little bit and go back on the attack. It's so frustrating when you feel like I got the edge and speed over that car right in front of me, but now suddenly I got this hornet's nest behind me.
11th, 12th, and 13th overall.
Well, that just showcases the depth in this championship, that you got guys like Christodoulou, Sellers, and DL battling for that lower position within the ranks.
No slouches in any of these lineups. Up and down both Pro and Pro-Am. These closing drivers here in Race 1 are amongst the best GT drivers in North America.
Sellers is just sitting there, figuring this out. You can just sense it from where he's placed in the race car. He's not shown his hand yet. He's not really attempted to pass on Adam. That kind of lulls the leading driver, feeling okay. He doesn't feel he's got an advantage into any of these corners, and then that's when the driver behind can suddenly surprise you, maybe.
A little oversteer moment for DL, big corner there.
Mentioned that in quality this morning that Ryan's wife, Jessica, is from Sebring, doesn't live here any longer. They actually met in Orlando, but she still has family here, so a lot of support for Ryan DL here this weekend.
Shots over the bumps, seeing how the different platforms handle it.
Here comes Mario. This is the gap between 3rd and 4th overall and in Pro. Look how it's come down.
And these are the top 2 teams in the Pro point standings.
McAleer's been super consistent with his pace. Just doesn't have that raw pace, doesn't have that edge and speed to really dig any deeper. So he's doing everything he can with the balance that he's got underneath him. Well, that Porsche is delivering, but it's ominous. That red Acura is really, really quick.
We've seen this season from this RS1 team. Rare has been the day where they have been the clear outright leaders in pace. Their recipe for success has been to maximize these race runs where Phil Garris can flex his muscle in qualifying, give them track position, and then McAleer can hang on the rest of the way.
The good news, if there's any good news for McAleer, if he was to lose this position, that it's for 3rd and 4th versus 1st and 2nd, so there's not such a big point swing. It's only 3 points between 3rd and 4th, so they still have a healthy 16-point lead. Should. Big if still if he loses this position.
But Mario will know the importance of every single point because they only won the championship last year by 5.
Yeah, and this is a 6-point swing. As opposed to losing 3 points, you can gain 3 points.
Lap times the last time by, Farnbacher again 6/10 quicker. I think by the next lap he will be there. That's going to make for a very long final 18 minutes for Stephen McAleer.
Yes.
Not an enviable position.
Yeah, similar between Colin Brown and Neil Verhagen. Verhagen half a second quicker again. Now 2.5 seconds back for that battle for P2 in the Pro-Am class. Halen and Norblin just keep trading blows. One lap, one is a 10th faster. The next lap, the other one. So the gap remains just above that 2-second mark. Fascinating.
2 veteran drivers at the front of this field that have sparred many times over the course of their careers.
Yeah, Mario leaning into the TC there a little bit. You can hear that hesitation where the electronics are taking some of the power away as he's searching for grip now.
Reports from Amanda down in the pits. I guess she had a word with Eric Filgaris. She said it's tough to watch. Steven's trying to hang on to those tires to have something to fight with here as Farnbacher closes in. On board with McAleer here. Let's watch and see, how does this Porsche handle turn 17?
He's given it everything. It's just that the pace is just not there for him today, and that red Acura is getting ever closer.
Gap is down under a second. It was another 5 or so tenths quicker that time by. There's no doubt which is the faster package here at this very moment.
Trenton Esteban's inching up on these guys as well, so don't think time is on his side, but that last lap he was even 4 tenths quicker than Mario, but 5 and a bit seconds back, so yeah, it could be tight. I mean, he could get there. He could get to McAleer, so McAleer's got to think about Farnbacher, but he's also got to think about this MDK Porsche as well. That would be an even bigger swing, potentially.
It's been another solid, quiet day for MDK. Team new to racing at this level. They've done a handful of GT3 races coming into the season. Plenty of racing in the single-make Porsche ranks over the years. But 2 very young drivers. When Trenton Estep is the veteran in the lineup, I mean, Trenton's excellent, very quick. He's won races in single-make Porsche racing. He's done some big enduros. But that's a lot on that young man's shoulders. And he's got to mentor young Seth Lucas. And they've done a pretty good job maximizing their days, picking up the pieces when others struggle. And very rarely can I remember them having any kind of noteworthy issues over the course of the season.
Yeah,
They've been very
really
solid.
Yeah, really solid. I was going to use the same word. And just a learning year, a building year, but 6 podiums of the 10 races, so super consistency. And that's what you want. You want to get the laps under your belt, not have those highs and lows with the cars on the side of the racetrack for various reasons.
And Seth Lucas, of course, won his class at the Indy 8 Hour last year. It was a small class, admittedly, but showed pretty good pace and a glimpse of things to come. Curious to see what that driving lineup looks like in a few weeks as the GT World Challenge America season concludes, but welcomes our friends from Intercontinental GT Challenge, the second to last race of the IGTC calendar, which wraps up at an oversubscribed Gulf 12 Hour later on this fall. And then looking ahead to next year, how exciting that the famed 24 Hours of the Nürburgring joins the list of great Intercontinental GT Challenge events like the Bathurst 12 Hour, Indy 8 Hour, and of course the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa.
Yeah, what an awesome schedule that has now become, the IGTC. But look at this battle. It's kind of stymied a little bit, Mario, as he's got closer in terms of he had that massive pace advantage, sometimes up to 7/8 tenths of a second a lap. Now he's got close to McAleer. Has he used the tires up a little bit? We talked about him getting into the TC, the traction control, exiting some of these corners. Saw him slip and slide a little bit. Is he getting any aero wash? So very different dynamic versus when you chase someone down, you get this close. This may give McAleer a little bit of hope.
Well, you talked about it before. The previous phase of the race, that was about chasing. That was about lap time. Now it's about doing battle wheel to wheel. Let's keep an eye here on this fight. Keep an eye on the Ferrari, which is closing in. That's Dial again, who's bringing the fight back to Brian Sellers, and in doing so, woo, that is a wild ride. 2 wheels off on the left-hand side.
Yeah, we saw when we were on board with him a few laps ago, he's just kind of struggling with the balance there. It looks like the car's a little taily, a little oversteery, loose coming through some of these corners. So maybe we got a bit too aggressive with the setup here. And typically you may be thinking, okay, we're deep in traffic, we may be fighting understeer with the aero wash over the front end of this Ferrari. Maybe they just got a bit too aggressive with their setup.
On the power here. Collier into Tower. To Power, just nothing he could do with those 2 Mercedes out in front, despite what appears to be a pace advantage. Very similar story here for Mario Farnbacher, who ran down McAleer, a race to lead that was over 5 seconds. But now it's stalled out.
It has stalled out. I mean, just a few hundredths between them, so you'd think he'd keep hunting him down, and for Eric Filgueras, as he looks on, is like, okay, maybe we're still got a chance here to hang on to that podium.
And then the other fight that's still to develop, but it's coming and it's coming soon, is Neil Verhagen catching Colin Brown. 1.3 seconds at the line the last time by in the fight for 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am.
That's significant because the 120 machine continues to lead with Elliott Skier behind the wheel. We talk about the 04 car and that little snafu with the right rear wheel change being a bit tardy. So there's already a 7-point swing. If Verhagen can get by Colin Brown, that'd make it a 10-point swing. Really tighten up that championship.
Big wiggle for McAleer coming out of the corner just a moment ago. Here is Verhagen. Bit between his teeth. He sees his prey just up the road, and we should reiterate what a remarkable result this is going to be, whether or not he passes Colin Brown. This car was put to the back because of a qualifying technical infringement. Samantha Tan had to do a drive-through because of a start infringement. There has not been a full course yellow. They have made this ground back up on raw pace.
Raw pace, and that's ominous for tomorrow. He could just take off from this field. See Colin Brown's car there looks a little bit lively through 15 and 16. That was not a good sequence of corners for Colin Brown. And Neil Verhagen is right there, and he's got no skin in this championship game. And you talked about their run, 3 runner-up finishes, a win at Road America. Can they continue that streak? Very much on the cards.
Santan 4th in points coming in. It's the co-driver to Verhagen. She's done the full season. 44 points out. She'll be in the top 3 at the end of this season, depending on how things shake out.
If they can go on the tail like they, if they can continue this impressive form, I mean, if they could suddenly get up on the big points here, 2nd, maybe even the win, I don't know. I mean, I think Ski is too far down the road to even think about winning, but certainly 2nd would be great, and start from the pole tomorrow. That would be a big points haul. Farnbacher thinks about it.
On the left-hand side of the screen, on board with Verhagen as he continues his pursuit of Colin Brown, but front and center is this battle. Stephen McAleer, Mario Farnbacher. Mario laying back the last couple of laps, and now he's back on the charge.
Maybe he's just catching his breath. Okay, I've caught him, and look at that backdrop. Estep is up on the wheel, continuing to cut into that gap. He could join this little battle here before the checkered flag. It's going to be tight. Time is not on his side, but there's a chance.
Certainly running some really competitive lap times here deep into the stint. Impressive stuff from young Trenton Estep. He's got the best seat in the house for the battle that we've been keeping our eyes on. Farnbacher and McAleer into 17. 11.5 minutes to go. Championship points at stake here as these two slug it out as they've done all season long.
Oh, this is good. This is Marius right there. He can feel it. McAleer does not crack easily. He's ahead of the game, proactive. Watch this, got to set him up. Try and just do the crossover here, get back on the power a little bit quicker, but Mackler's probably going to defend immediately.
Mario on the absolute ragged edge. You can see the NSX twitching up and over the bumps, up and over the curbs.
Adrenaline kicking in for Stephen Macklin. Not feeling great here today, but when you're in these sort of battles, normally you can overcome that.
Meanwhile, you can see it in picture. Verhagen has Brown in the crosshairs now, and he's got 10.5 minutes to unravel that puzzle.
Macklin just hitting his marks. He knows what he's got. He's not overdriving. You could see that in the consistency of his pace when he was being chased down. He was still hitting his marks, executing to the best of the performance of the car. Farnbacher there thinks about turn 10 once again. Macklin doesn't crack.
Right there, right under the rear wing, and watching anxiously, I'm sure, pit side, Amanda, is Stephen McAleer's co-driver, Eric Filgaris.
Oh, we can actually tell the body language of driver sitting right next to Eric Filgaris as we watch this. What is the emotion that you're feeling right now?
I think the season-long battle. You know, the RS1 guys have fought so hard. You know, not only all year long, but this weekend's been so trying. We broke a transmission in practice 1. We weren't able to get any time in practice 2, which would have been conditions like this. So we're sort of, in a way, shooting from the hip. We were on the back foot compared to a lot of the other teams. And I think it was just about trying to set a gap. You know, Steven's doing a fantastic job to manage Mario behind him, which is not easy. We know how strong Mario is. And the guys did an amazing job on the pit stop. So, you know, we're watching 9 minutes and change, and you know, this is coming down to the wire for not only the race but the season.
Well, you talk about the season. You are the points leader, as we're talking about in this position. Is it better to be the chaser or the chasing?
Well, it's nice to be chased. You know, although we started the season strong, and we hit a rough patch somewhere around the time that you stopped coming to the races. So you're back, and we're looking at a podium position so far. So, yeah, I think we just want to finish a really strong end to the normal season before we go into the double points race at Indianapolis.
Thank you. We'll be watching.
Battles all over the racetrack. Thanks, Amanda. Verhagen took a look at Brown. Inside, then outside. Colin covers him off. This is a big fight here. This is second and third in the Pro-Am ranks, and Brown scrapping and clawing, trying to hang on to as many of those precious points as he can.
He is. Car doesn't look to be the most comfortable. He's hanging on here, but you know, young Neil Verhagen is going to give it one here and send it. I said he's got no skin in the championship game, but great point that you brought up. His teammate Samantha Tant does. Sits there in fourth, 44 points back, but if they can go on a roll here to finish out the season, who knows what could happen by the time we get to the checkered flag at Indy.
My read on this, I'm curious if you agree, this BMW might be the best suited to try and break through and make a run through the field relative to the rest of the cars in the field. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is because, you know, it's got the lap time. I mean, Neil's just been fantastic in terms of his pace here today, in terms of the qualifying pace. Admittedly, that was taken away due to that boost issue. But nonetheless, we talk about lap time, and then when you get to someone, how do you make a move? Well, the BMW seems to be a little bit stronger, so he's just got to set him up now. He's just got to really get through this sequence of corners well, see if he can get a good exit through turn 16. Having said that, Collins gapped him by a couple of car lengths exactly when he needed it, so it's me a tall order to catch him from there.
We heard from George Kurtz earlier, and George admitted this car is a bit squirmy. It's not as comfortable as he'd like it to be. We're seeing that through the pictures for Colin Brown. In the meantime, the battle is back on between McAleer and Farnbacher. Again, McAleer covers the inside. Can Farnbacher get a run out of turn 1? This is the run down to turn number 3. He's not close enough this time.
That was wild. He put it to the outside, got a little bit loose, drifting it, and now Verhagen puts the pressure on down into turn 1, takes it to the high side. Colin can't move the car too much. Verhagen going to try and run the cushion around the outside. This is going to be really tight at the exit.
Super close, super high commitment. The battle continues down to turn number 3. Brown to the inside. Verhagen has to back out of it. Crosses over. Oh, big twitch there for the Mercedes.
Totally on the limit, both of these drivers. Same thing with McAleer. and Farnbacher as well. What a battle we're seeing. We could see it from the lap times that potentially would see this with a few minutes to go, and it's played out nicely.
Yeah, this was setting up. We did. We saw it on timing and scoring. It's played out exactly as we hoped it would. Two fantastic battles with major championship implications in play here in the final 6 minutes of race 1 at Sebring.
And what's interesting, Ryan, sometimes you can have that pace advantage. You're doing your own thing, and then suddenly you get on the tail of the car in front of you, and that changes the whole dynamic, how you're rolling through the corner. You got to adjust and try and adapt and figure out, okay, he's slow here. That's stopping my speed. I have to readjust, create maybe a little bit of a gap so I can roll through the apex and have the advantage on the exit of the corner. So that's why it gets tricky.
We would be remiss if we did not mention this is all happening behind overall leader Jan Halen. And the car started by Madison Snow. Wright Motorsports has controlled this race from the front. It's a 5.3 second advantage. Halen to Oberlin, who runs second. Then it's the battle between McAleer and Farnbacher, third and fourth in pro.
Right there you can see Collins really quick through 15 and 16. And that gives him enough of a gap there, I think, to keep him safe to that straightaway advantage that Neil has. We're right on board with Neil here. He's coming at Colin Brown, but then they're going to arc it in here to the turning point. So it doesn't open up the door there. Colin Brown knows that. He knows the Mercedes is strong through those couple of corners before Almond Straight. This is where he's a bit more vulnerable. Neil catches him as you get to 17. He's a little bit closer coming on this front straightaway, but it's tough to make a move.
Closing in, looking inside. Not close enough. Brown chops across the nose. He'll hang on to the position. This is what sports car racing is all about. Contrasting strengths and weaknesses from the different platforms, but all coming together here in the final minutes.
Power so early there coming off turn 5. Both these cars just launching it.
Here we go again. This is Farnbacher late on the brakes. They make contact. Mario is through.
There's turn 10. Late move, legit. Hard racing, but got to go for that gap. Look at Estep. He's not far behind this battle. He's going to be a player here.
Yeah. That was for third in pro, and big for the points. A 6-point swing for the Racer's Edge team as they try to claw into championship contention. Let's look at it one more time, Cal.
Gets the run through Fangio and just dives down to the inside. McAleer tried to close the door but wasn't quite quick enough to do it. Oh, contact! Contact. Mario's off. Mario is off the racetrack. McAleer goes through and Estep is right with him. Estep is through.
Major implications with that contact. Race control will take a look at it. We will too when we have the chance. But to your point, Estep is through. He's the big gainer here, up a couple of positions.
Onto the podium.
Yes.
Wow, Balzana's gotten around. Mario as well. Car is still running. That's the good news, but how did that develop as this battle is not going anywhere? But Hagen really tight. Can he get the power down with that tight exit coming off the final corner?
Colin Brown thinks he can because he immediately picks the defensive ground to the inside, but Verhagen goes further inside into turn 1. Little contact there. Brown drifts out wide, and side by side out of turn number 1, the fight's not done. Brown to the outside, Verhagen to the inside. A pair of Americans dueling here at Sebring.
Hard racing, but good respect coming off. I mean, Verhagen could have taken all of the road and wiped Colin Brown out. He elected not to do that.
Fantastic move for Hagen around Brown. That cost Brown valuable points in the championship. It's great news for Wright Motorsports and Elliott Skier. The Wright Motorsports team might be having a wonderful day when it's all said and done. Both of their cars lead in their respective classes, but this is the moment we need to break down here, Cal.
Oh,
what
it was
happened?
a mistake. Well, I don't think McAleer intended to make that move. He got up on the curb. He's almost correcting the car and had nowhere to go with it. He needed the road that Mario was on to get the car back under control. Let's ride on board with him. Watch here. You go through the left-hander. He's going to get up on that curb there. And a big correction right there. He did not intend to try and overtake Mario Farnbacher. There was a little bobble in the preceding corner. Sent him there. And they had nowhere to go.
Incident under review.
it was a mistake and you turned your competitor, it has championship implications. They got to make a quick call here.
Back to the front of the field. How about the drive? First by Madison Snow, and it started in qualifying this morning where he took pole position by nearly 0.6 of a second. He did what he needed to do in his opening stint, built the gap, turned it over to his co-driver Jan Heylen, and the Belgian, now living in Florida, has done the rest. On the final lap here, Jan Heylen with a 6.5 second lead over Bill Auberlen, and just half a lap away from a big race win in the Pro class.
Yeah, I think he just dampened Bill Auberlen's enthusiasm there with that consistency of the pace, and when he needed to, he'd lay one down and just say, I've got this under control. And I think Bill Auberlen just settled back and said, okay, we'll take the big points here. But that looked like that was going to be another battle. We forecast 3 battles coming together. 2 certainly have, but Jan Helen's got the commanding lead now, up to around 6.5 seconds.
This is the team that finished second in the Pro-Am standings 1 year ago. Jan Heylen and his son-in-law, Charlie Luck, who started this season together in the Pro-Am ranks this year. Charlie dealing with a few health issues. He's still at the racetrack. We wish you a speedy recovery, Charlie. Hope to see you back behind the wheel here soon. And with his support, this team has carried on. Madison Snow drafted into the lineup alongside Jan Heylen. That elevated this car to the pro ranks. Surprisingly, they are still seeking their first win of the year in this number 45 car, and it's just 1 corner away. Here comes Jan Heylen one more time through Sunset Bend. A masterful performance from Wright Motorsports. Madison Snow and Jan Heylen is good enough for win number 1 of the season. They take race 1 at Sebring International Raceway.
Fantastic performance, really solid run from the Bimmerwell guys as well. Auberlen picks up P2 along with Chandler Hull, really solid day. Shame that they had that issue in quali this morning that precluded Bill from laying down a fast lap for tomorrow's start. He's got a lot of work to do.
It is the 6th podium for Auberlen and Hull. Now we check this out. Apparently a problem for Alessandro Balzan on the last lap. That's going to bring Farnbacher up another place. But behind, this is the Pro-Am leader crossing the stripe. Elliott Skier, along with Adam Adelson, take home a victory for Wright Motorsports. It's a win in both classes for the Ohio-based team. And there is the stricken Ferrari of Balzan.
I wonder if it's fuel.
Maybe. But that is big because it gives Farnbacher another position, and the incident is still under review.
Well, what's going to be interesting now, it'd be easy if they wanted to correct that, just to flip them, because you got McAleer 4th, Farnbacher 5th. They could just say, we're just going to trade positions if they feel that McAleer was responsible for that incident.
That's Balzan out of the car. That's the celebration from Adam Adelson. We didn't talk about this enough. What a bounce-back weekend for this team. Road America was an abject disaster for them. This was a huge, huge result, and it just tightens up that championship that much more.
Yeah, just the ebb and flow of the luck. The 04 car looked like they had it not under control, but they had the track position. George Kurtz did an awesome opening stint to hold down the lead to the round of pit stops. Pitted 1 lap later and all went a bit awry there, and then Verhagen had the pace to get around the 04 CrowdStrike entry as well.
And improbably, this is not improbable. We'll get to the improbable part in a moment. CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race to Neil Verhagen, 1:59.775. The improbable thing is, despite 2 penalties, that streak of finishing no worse than 2nd since Neil joined the lineup is intact.
And they got a good chance tomorrow to extend that, starting from pole position.
Well, it was to be pole position, right? But that technical infraction has them at the back again, but we know they can do it. They proved it today.
Yeah.
Presumably no drive-through penalty tomorrow, just to make things interesting.
Great point. I forgot they lost both.
Yeah, that was a double whammy. Wow. It took a little while to build, but it came to a boil in the final 20 minutes. What a race. What a result for Wright Motorsports. A pair of wins across the 2 classes, Snow and Heylen over Auberlen and Hull. Lucas and Estep, another podium finish for them. Really well done. And all this is provisional because we still have an incident under review, by the way. So Fulgaris and McAleer on the road come home in 4th ahead of Harrison and Farnbacher. Then we get to the Pro-Am ranks where Skier and Adelson score a big win. For Hagen and Tan, another great result for that pairing. They get to 2nd. Hertz and Brown completing the podium in Pro-Am. We do believe a drive-through penalty has been issued to the 28 car of McAleer for that contact. Now, of course, that can't be served because the race is over. It will be converted to a time penalty. And that will certainly cost them the position to Farnbacher.
Just the one, though. I think it saves them because Balzan stranded on the last lap. So I think it's only going to make one position change. And you think about it, how does that really play out? Well, for Stephen McAleer, probably helps. It's only going to be a 2-point swing versus what was going to be a 3-point swing if they ran 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, instead they end up 4th and 5th. You're right.
So still, the 93 cuts into the lead, but by not as big a margin, with Estep suddenly jumping up on the podium.
Boy, there are more layers to this race than an onion. That is something to try and piece through. I think everyone's going to be sitting around tonight trying to figure out what exactly happened here today and how all of this played out. But it was tremendous drama for us. As you see, Colin Brown climbing from his race car. He did everything in his power to keep Neil Verhagen at bay. At a certain point, though, that BMW looked like it was unstoppable.
Yeah, and be curious to see how Colin feels about this. I mean, I think he'll just take it on the chin. There might have been a little bump there, so he may have a little bit of aggravation about that. But nonetheless, I mean, the BMW had the pace. I mean, he was going to stick it in there somewhere by the end of the race.
Well, let's hear from our victors today. It was a dominant performance from the number 45 car of Madison Snow and Jan Halen. Let's hear from them now with Amanda.
Well, hopefully Madison will make it here to also jump in on this interview. And Jan, just looking back at the stats, it's hard to believe this is the first win of the year for this car. Now you guys are racing in that pro category, but why was this one just a long time coming for you guys?
Yeah, it's been a tough year for us. Just want to say thank you to Charlie for keeping us in the championship and Madison for giving us this win. But it's been it's been a tough season. Unfortunately, the way the BOP works, it hasn't been on our side. We've been missing some top speed, and Sebring just lends itself to us a little bit more with all the turns. And just really happy for the team and everybody involved to be back on the podium. And I think Madison's coming over. But great race by the whole team, and couldn't be happier.
I love how he thought he wasn't going to get interviewed. We're waving him over here off camera, and you wanted to walk here so slow. But Madison, goodness, part of this effort is all yours. Just 3 races with this team, and this is the result. Why is this such a good fit for you?
I mean, it helps that I've been with the team before. It's been quite a few years since I've been with Wright and Jan Halen too. But it's wonderful to be back. They had everything set up, so I just had to step in here and fill in Charlie's seat.
Well, you were up there. What was Charlie's reaction?
We're good friends, and it was really cool to be up there and be with him.
Congratulations, guys. See you tomorrow.
Phenomenal effort from those two. Curious to see what race 2 has in store. And unfortunately, we didn't see much of them. All the drama was behind them. They were gone.
Yeah.
From the drop of the green.
What a run Madison Snow is on.
Yeah, you're right.
Got the golden touch right now.
Yeah, he's living a charmed life, no question. Look to keep that going tomorrow in the second race. Here's a look at their teammates. The Pro-Am winners are standing by.
And it will be a double top step for Wright Motorsports. And I was talking to you guys ahead of this weekend, and you said that there's no pair that has more fun than you guys. And Adam, what will the story of today's race be?
Honestly, as exciting as it may have seemed, it was pretty boring, I think, from where both of us stood. We just had to hit our marks, try and manage the tire, maintain the gaps. George was putting in some really, really good laps, and I was really struggling to catch him. But, with the car that Wright Motorsports provides for us, the 991.2 GT3R, she's still humming, baby.
We talked about how this was going to be a pivotal weekend for you guys. This points championship is not over in this class. Why will execution matter just as much tomorrow?
because it's worth just as amount of points as today, right? Still a lot on the table, a lot to go. Ultimately, a double Porsche win at Sebring is spectacular as always, but there's 3 races worth of points still left in this. This was a huge morale boost, obviously, for having 2 pretty poor weekends coming into this one. So we were both joking in the trailer a little before the race of like, we need one. Like, it was really to get it all going again. And this car was a shell a week ago. The team were telling us they were watching the IMSA race as they were literally putting the first parts on the car. And for a couple days later to be here and to be on the top step is just a testament to Wright Motorsport and everyone involved. And for this kid to wheel it as he did and give me the car and the position I needed to be in and just go drive was just absolutely everything I could ask for.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
You know, one other layer to the Pro-Am battle we should probably go back to was the pit lane miscue for the Riley team that cost them track position. We can talk more about that a little bit later on. Right now, let's look at the highlights of this race and what a race it was. The green flag flew a little over 90 minutes ago, and it was Madison Snow who sprinted ahead from pole position ahead of Chandler Hall. This was a big moment early on, though. 3 cars involved, no contact, everyone able to continue on, but a scary moment here from on board Justin Wetherill.
Yeah, pretty tight quarters there down into turn 1. Barton from the outside. Mercedes just squeezes Jeff Burton there, sends him into a spin. Wetherill manages to get it well down. What a move this was by Samantha Tan. Just beautifully crafted.
Comeback drive from ST Racing. Penalty put him to the back of the field to start. Then a drive-through for Samantha, but they were able to recover. That was the pit lane issue I talked about, and it cost the 04 a ton of time. They entered the pit sequence as the leaders in class. They come out second, and just look at all the ground they lost to Wright Motorsports.
Yeah, it was over 11 seconds, and then Colin Brown didn't seem to have the pace. This was the move. But Hagen just cutting his way through this field. Just monster pace, and then Mario Farnbacher down into turn 10, elbows his way through, but later on in the lap, little mistake here, gets up on the curb, tries to gather it back up together, sends it down the inside, turns Mario, and for that he gets a penalty and will lose that position by the checkered flag.
At the front of the field, Wright Motorsports swept the day, led by this number 45 car, Jan Halen and Madison Snow. Podiums underway here at Sebring International Raceway. And there are your Pro-Am winners from Wright Motorsports. And again, going back to the way that pit stop played out, we talk about it quite a bit. Just the one pit stop in a traditional Fanatec GT America race, but it can make such a big difference.
It has to be right. I mean, there's not a ton of time to play with in terms of the minimum stop time, but any little wrinkle like we saw there with that right rear wheel change going awry. And then I think ultimately the 04 car didn't quite have the pace here today. I think they may have missed on the setup just a little bit. George talked about the car being super slippy during his stint, was hanging on. He didn't sound that confident. And then obviously when you're on the back foot with that miscue on pit lane, didn't have enough speed in the car to go back on the attack.
But you do wonder how much that lost track position, the time extra spent in the pit lane, left them vulnerable. Perhaps Colin Brown could have held off a little bit longer.
Oh, I think he'd have finished second at least. So that just got him into the clutches of Verhagen with the pace that he had.
Quite a day for these drivers. What a streak ST Racing is on. It seems like you could throw anything you want at them, and they are somehow able to put it all back together again.
Yeah. They are, and I tell you what, Elliot Skier does a really solid job. We haven't really, I think, given him enough kudos for the job he's been doing this year. He's really kind of mentored Adam Adelson. They've been a great partnership. They're great friends, real yin and a yang to their chemistry inside and outside the cockpit. So he did a really solid job to get the lead, but then just pit down, get it to the checkered flag.
I think to your point, you look at those pros that finished the race, and most of them are big-time household names in GT racing. Frankly, Elliot Skier probably doesn't have that same status, but there he was running good enough times to be mixing it up with the best of them, and I think that's one of the things this championship allows you to do as an up-and-comer like Elliot.
Yeah, and I think it's been a great comeback story for him. He was kind of on the horizon there. Pat Long was a big mentor when he was under the Porsche guidance, and kind of disappeared on us for a couple of seasons. Now he's got this opportunity with Adam Adelson. Had a lot of success last year, suddenly broke through, getting the wins, makes this big move up to GT3, and here we go.
Here is the Pro Class podium now. MDK Motorsports, about what, 30 seconds to go in the race. I'm not sure they thought a podium was in play, but they
had
end
the
up in
pace.
third.
They could see
yeah.
it, and it was sizing up nicely to be coming down to the wire, and they got a little bit of help with the little kerfuffle there with the 93 and the 28.
But then it's Chandler Hull and Bill Oberlin who take home the second spots. Another podium for them. I think it's their 5th or 6th on the year. Just the one win, but the model of consistency. And then your overall winners, Madison Snow and Jan Halen, in what appeared to be a trouble-free run today.
It really was. It looked like Oberlin had the pace. He was catching Jan Halen, but didn't have enough quite to get to him. And then I think he just settled in at the end to take the big points on the day.
It was a phenomenal race one here at Sebring. We do it all over again tomorrow. Hope you join us. Live coverage coming up on the same streaming platforms.